Hey everyone, my name is Eric Diekman. I am a business consultant here at ProVal Tech. Today I'm going to go over some of the setup procedures and setup options that you have in your product catalog and what they do and how they impact your system. Please click the like and subscribe button in the bottom right hand corner so you never have to miss out on any one of our videos. So let's get into it. So common things in terms of what do we do and what are the different pieces of the product catalog, what's important, what's not. A couple things, if you've had PSA and Automate for quite some time, you may have noticed that it pre-created some of these managed network items. Not a big deal. What you'll also notice is that these came in as a class of non-inventory. So this is a common thing that people don't necessarily understand completely in terms of why we would want specific products in specific classes. So let's kind of jump into that for a second. So your overall product setup, pretty straightforward, right? We're going to have a product ID, we're going to have a description, and then we have our category and our subcategory. Now, a couple of high level things. Now, the product ID, you have the ability for the product ID to be hidden on your invoices. So product ID, manufacturer part number, a lot of times we may not show those. The description, this is a product catalog description only. It does not show up anywhere else other than in this one field. So my recommendation when you're actually creating products is to actually take that same product description and then also make that as part of the beginning of your customer description. So if these product ID and the description are going to match, that's fine, not a big deal. I would still recommend, typically most people are going to withhold the product ID and they want the customer description to be available on there. So in those cases, this is where it helps out, right? So if we had Lenovo workstation, we had all of the different details of what that workstation was in here, then we would at least see that in the customer description part. So again, just kind of a tip and trick to kind of help in terms of setting that up and where some of those things and where some of those settings and what those things may impact. Now, your categories and subcategories, these are created inside of the setup tables. These are going to be the most common way in which you break down product revenue mapping from a GL perspective. So in other words, let's say we have hardware, we want hardware to go into a certain category. Anytime we use this product has a category of hardware. When we create the invoice for that, it can be associated to a specific GL account. So when that gets pushed over to our accounting package, it will fall into that hardware. Now we can certainly be more granular. We can have breakdowns of hardware. We could say workstations, we could say monitors, we could say laptops, however we want to break that down. So we can certainly kind of get as descriptive as we need in regards to how we want to break that down and report that. Now, over here on our other column, we'll hit some of these others in a second. Our product type service. Now, here's a little hint on product type. Product type is actually a cross-reference used in QuickBooks in regards to how that product is handled. So at the end of the day, there can only be 4 product types. We're going to have an inventory part, a non-inventory part, and other charge or service. Now, let me explain a little bit about what I'm talking about and kind of visually show you that. Um, the product catalog, when we do this, what this impacts is when we push this product over to QuickBooks, how do we want QuickBooks to treat this specific type of product? So in here, if we come in and we do our little search, we'll just go into type and we'll go into our product type. So in here, you'll notice if I click into other charge, there is a cross-reference here of other charge. These are the recognized accounting views of how they're going to view those different parts and those different products. So we can create multiple product types. However, at the end of the day, they have to have one of these 4 cross references, right? So you will notice in here we do have other charge, service, inventory, non-inventory. Now, a common one that I do create just more from a visual standpoint, just so we can kind of keep some consistency, would be managed services. But what I need to do is I need to choose that I either want this under other charge or service. We'll pick service for this one. Now, at the end of the day, yes, I do have 5, but we have to remember that this is going to the same place as this. If I do not set a default, I believe that the accounting package for QuickBooks for the default with that would be it would create it as a non-inventory part. So you do want to pay attention to this a little bit. Now, here comes the big piece, the product class. We have agreement, bundle, inventory, non-inventory, and service. So an agreement class product is a recurring service that is designed to sit on a monthly, annual, semi-annual, however we want to do it, some type of a reoccurring billing. In a lot of cases, people assume that service, right? So this is a managed workstation. It's a service I'm providing. Service is actually labor. Agreement is the class that we want to choose. Then from here, once we have this agreement class, when we convert an opportunity to an agreement, it's going to look for those agreement class items, so it does make it a little bit easier. And if you're using CPQ and smart item routing, it would also dump those onto an agreement if you create it from there. Now, bundle class is exactly what it sounds like. That's an opportunity to bundle those items together. Now, what will happen when you save something as a bundle class is it'll open up an item down here. We'll take a look at that in a second, where you'd be able to add the components or preload the components for that specific bundle. You also have the option to do what's called a phase bundle. What a phase bundle will do is when we convert that into a project is it will do exactly what it sounds like. It will create a phase with whatever is bundled into that item. So it's usually going to be a mix of some type of a service class or a labor product and the different parts that are needed to be installed. So you can kind of create phases from that as well. Now, we're going to look at inventory and non-inventory. The biggest difference between inventory and non-inventory is once something is in inventory, it's going to create an audit trail. And because it creates that audit trail, these products cannot be deleted. Non-inventory products will not create an audit trail. They will have a history and a reference, but they can be deleted. Now, the thing about a non-inventory part is that that is the one product class that you can change from to another class. So if you're unsure of how you should create your products, always put them in a non-inventory because you could always make the change after the fact. If you save it in any other class, it is locked into that class. What the inventory options will also open up for us, if I choose inventory, is we can serialize it, and then we can also apply cost by serial number. Now, this may be important when and if, because accounting packages like QuickBooks will typically use average costing. However, if we have a price that fluctuates up and down at a great number, that can affect the average costing, especially for what's in inventory. So we do recommend serializing that and applying the cost by the serial number, which means that when I bring that product in, whatever that cost is, that's going to be the same cost when I go and sell that product. It's going to be attached and associated with that serial number. We do also have the ability to have minimum stock levels. So if I wanted to have a minimum stock level of 5, what happens is when I add these items to a ticket, it will continue to add to them. And then once I have crossed that threshold of 5, what it's going to do is it's going to create an automatic demand in my purchasing screen to be able to actually purchase that product. It's going to say, hey, we're below what we want to have for our minimum count. We want to bring that up. Now, it's going to put in the number needed to hit that minimum, but you can always adjust that and bring in more than the minimum as well. Service class products. I talked about these for a few times. Service class products are labor. Now, the key to a service class product is actually really, really simple. It comes down to this price attribute right here. This price attribute is going to determine what happens when it's converted from a opportunity or a sales order, right? So when we're taking it from that opportunity, we're bringing it down. If it has a fixed fee, we'll make it simple right now. If I bring it to a ticket, it's going to flip the finance on that ticket to fixed fee, and it's going to put whatever that amount is, right? So if it's a $500 fixed fee ticket, convert from an opportunity or convert from the sales order to the ticket, creates it as fixed fee. Not to exceed, so let's say same thing, $500, it will bill hourly until it hits that threshold of $500. Time and material really doesn't do much, obviously, because it's staying the same. It's saying whatever that is, we're going to be billing you time and material. And then override rate would say, hey, we are actually, normally we charge $200 an hour. In this case, we're going to charge you $150. It's going to override the rate for that ticket. So let's just kind of take a quick look at that in real time, just to kind of give it a little bit of visualness behind it and see what that looks like. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to create a sales order just because it's easy. Same functionality, whether it's a sales order or an opportunity in regards to the conversion. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to create a sales order here. Let's save this, and I'm going to come to my product screen, and I'm going to add, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click in here, and then we'll search, and then I'll actually come over here, and there should be, oh, here we go, choose my service class. There should be some test ones in here as well. So perfect. So I've got some different service class products in here. You see time and material, not to exceed, fixed fee. Um, just double checking. So I'm going to say fixed fee. We're going to say a quantity of one. We're going to say $275. And then we'll hit save on here. Now, just to double check so you can see what this looks like, I'm going to click into the product ID. That's going to bring me back here. I can see that this is a fixed fee, which is exactly what I want. Just as a double check, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click onto the order tab. I'm going to click convert. I'm going to choose a ticket. We're going to hit next, create a new service ticket, fixed fee. It's bringing that product over. Now, what you're going to find is that it does not bring the actual product over anymore. So service class products do not remain as line items when we convert. That is a common question, and it's also something that typically kind of throws people off. But if I come into my finance tab of this ticket, what you're going to notice is right here in the billing method, it changed to fixed fee, and it put in that billing amount of $275. So that is the benefit to using your product catalog, and in particular your service class products, to be able to kind of be beneficial to you. Now, this one right here is a managed workstation. It came in as a non-inventory, so I'm going to change this to an agreement class. I'm going to Actually, I'll leave that right now to service. Now, what you're going to notice when I save this now, get a little pop-up. This action is not reversible. We're going to click OK. That's fine. And now you're going to see it becomes grayed out. So I actually can't change that. Now, common question that I get on here is also, what is this enable recurrence? Is this something that I want to worry about? Brief history, 10-second history. This was designed originally before ConnectWise had purchased as what we know now as CPQ. Back then it was Quosal. You do not need to do this. This is for forecasting typically only, right? So if we did an opportunity, it's going to show that these are recurring payments for a year, that type of thing. There's no additional functionality that is gained by turning this on. And in fact, if you do use CPQ, I actually recommend not turning it on because there's some other features in CPQ that it potentially tends to mess around with. But that's kind of the high level here of the breakdowns of classes. Why would we want these? At the end of the day, your products can be set up in a variety of different ways. Some of the options you also have is you can also update some of these things in mass, especially things like your product category and subcategory, being able to update those, change those for GL purposes. You can actually update your product class in mass, keeping in mind that once you change it out of non-inventory, those are the only ones that you can. High level with inventory products, what special order does is it bypasses what's in the inventory. And what dropship does is the same thing as it bypasses what's in the inventory. It says, hey, I know we have 10 of these, but we're going to be drop shipping these to the client. Or I know that we have 5 of these, but I want to get a fresh batch of all 10 together. So I'm going to do a special order and I'm going to bypass what we have in inventory. So that's what those two options do. But those are just some little tips and tricks that sometimes we forget about. So I thank you for joining us today. If there are any other things that you'd like to learn about PSA, please drop in some comments or let us know, and don't forget to subscribe.